Why is it that some days you wake up feeling like an absolute weapon, but other days you just feel like you got hit by a bus? Well, that inconsistency could actually just be explained by your sleep. Sleep is literally the most underrated part of fitness, and not many people focus on it. They think that you need to train hard, and a lot of people still get the nutrition right, but they forget that sleep is the foundation of everything. It controls your hunger, your mood, your energy, your stress, your performance, and your recovery. So if you're gonna remember anything from this video, it's gonna be this. Sleep is the foundation of absolutely everything that you do in fitness. So let me show you why sleep controls all the results that you want, starting with the biggest misconception. And that is 8 hours of sleep could still be a bad sleep. I'm not saying it would be, but we got to look at the quality of sleep rather than just how much sleep you're getting in a given night. Starting with hours doesn't necessarily equal recovery. Now, let's say that you go to sleep and your body doesn't enter your deep sleep and REM stages. Your REM stages being your mental reset and your deep sleep being your body reset. If you block these stages due to your habits from the previous night before, then you're going to end up being not fully recharged. Think of it like a battery, right? If you're waking up with 30% battery, then you're not going to perform as well as you would if you were 100%. Now, we're not always going to be able to get to 100% because obviously there's lifestyle factors as well, but you can try and optimize your deep sleep so that you're making the most of your body's muscle tissue repair. So if hours aren't the problem, you should probably look into trying to optimize your deep sleep and REM sleep stages. Following on from that, you're not tired because of how you slept, you're tired because how you went to sleep. Let me explain. Deep sleep only happens when your heart rate is low. So anything on the contrary that raises your heart rate is going to affect that deep sleep stage, especially when it's just before bed. Things that are going to get your heart rate lower is keeping your stress low. So during the day, you want to start winding down in the afternoon. So that means training early. Another thing that's commonly overlooked with deep sleep is you need to lower your core temperature by about 1 degree to be able to enter those stages effectively and stay in those stages. So you should try setting your aircon to about 17 to 19 degrees instead of the common temperature, which is 23, 24 degrees. You need to have a cool environment when you sleep. That is one of the key things after lowering your heart rate that you need to optimize. I feel like this one is pretty self-explanatory. Dark room means signal body, sleep. So make sure you have a dark room when you sleep too. So what actually causes high heart rate? Let's try and break that down too. You're not waking up tired because of how you slept, you're waking up tired because of how you went to sleep. Let me explain that as well. Deep sleep only happens when your heart rate is low, your core temperature is low, and your stress levels are low. The main one of those three is going to be your heart rate that we want to focus on. So let's think of it on the other side. Things that are going to increase your heart rate. Watching screens late, training late, eating late, doing anything that is going to keep you moving and keep your brain wired and keep your nervous system high and active right before you're going to go to sleep. That's all going to increase your heart rate, which is in turn going to have an effect on your deep sleep. You may fall asleep exhausted, but you're actually not going to enter your deep sleep as effectively as you could if you try and wind down your heart rate before bed. This could be literally 20 minutes before bed, you stop screens. 30 seconds before bed, you start doing some breathing. Or maybe 10 minutes before bed, you read a book. It doesn't take that much time, but you're going to find a massive difference the next day. Think about it as if you can optimize your sleep so you get an extra hour of deep sleep each night, or maybe half an hour or 20 minutes, you're going to be able to function at a much higher capacity the day before. That doing that extra 10-20 minutes each night is going to have a much better effect than you trying to thug it out the next day with caffeine and whatever else you're doing to try and get yourself to do work. So moral of the story is high heart rate abolishes deep sleep, like absolutely just fucks it up. So you're going to want to avoid that if you want to recover properly from your workouts from the day before or just your mental strain from the day before. So what actually causes a high heart rate at night? Let's break that down a little bit now. There are 5 things secretly destroying your deep sleep. Let's list them. Let's talk about late food. Digestion elevates your heart rate. Think about it as if you're trying to go to sleep and you've got a system that's trying to get your body to calm down and enter those stages, but at the same time, it's trying to digest your food. It's just not going to work. You can't have those things operating at the same time. You want to give your body a couple hours before you go to sleep from your last meal so that you can make sure your body is primed and ready to enter those deep sleep stages. The next thing is going to be late caffeine. Caffeine delays your sleep pressure, and you might think you can stop at around 3 or 4 p.m., but it's actually 8 to 10 hours, sometimes even more, that it has an effect. I'm all for waking up and having a cup of coffee, waking up, having food and then coffee, but making sure you don't drink it 10 hours even before bed. I've tracked it for the last 8 months now, and even up to 13 hours it has an effect for me. So having that in the morning as a little bit of a boost is fine, but if you really want to optimize your sleep, you really need to be cutting that out after lunchtime pretty much. And that's if you're going to bed at 10 p.m. If you're going to bed earlier, then maybe even earlier than that. The next thing is stressing before bed. Just increases your cortisol, and it's not going to help you lower your heart rate before bed. It's going to do quite the opposite. Your heart rate's going to be quite high, and you're not going to be able to enter those deep sleep stages. The next thing is blue light, because blue light blocks your melatonin, and melatonin is that chemical in your brain that is going to get you primed and ready to go to sleep. It's what tells your body, hey, it's time to go to sleep. So if you're blocking that with blue light, then you're not going to enter your deep sleep stages as effectively as you could if you didn't have blue light. So ways to avoid that is going to either be blue light blocking glasses if you're going to use your screens before bed, but preferably 20 minutes to even an hour before bed, stop screens completely. Read a book, hang out with family, really just do things that are going to lower your heart rate. Calm down before bed. And the last one is going to be just general overthinking. Overthinking is going to keep your sympathetic nervous system active, and that increased heart rate, again, horrible for deep sleep. So try to avoid overthinking. Maybe you can read a book, as I said before. Read a book, do something that's going to keep your brain off whatever you're thinking about, so you can try and optimize for your sleep. You need to treat sleep as your number one priority. So to list, food, caffeine, stress, screens, overthinking, all going to have an effect on your sleep and then your recovery from the day's strain. And all these don't just ruin your sleep, they ruin your training as well. So if you want to have a good training session, you want to push harder the next day, then you need to optimize your sleep. On the topic of training, let's talk about strength. So one bad night of sleep can actually just make all your lifts feel 10 to 20% heavier. Poor sleep lowers your strength instantly. And I know that might seem pretty straightforward, but another thing you might not have thought of is your coordination drops. Your technique gets worse, and having your technique worse is then going to have an effect on how effectively you can lift the weight. You're also going to have a little bit more sensitivity to pain, and that increased sensitivity to pain is going to lead to more tightness, and that's not something that you want from a workout. You want to feel good after your workout, especially if you have to go to work the next day. That even might have an effect on your mental. If you're feeling tight and sore and you don't want to be doing anything because of your sleep, then you're probably not going to want to be at work either. Another thing is going to be your recovery between sets is going to slow down. Your body isn't primed to be able to take that load after a bad night's sleep. You need to have, the last thing is just going to be motivation and generally your body's willingness to go and do the gym in the first place. If you already struggle to go to the gym and you've got poor sleep, which is going to decrease your ability to get to the gym by 10 to 20% or sometimes even more, or just completely obliterate your willpower to go to the gym at all, then having that poor sleep is the worst thing for you, because you're already putting yourself at a clear disadvantage by having poor sleep to go into the gym when at the start you were already at a disadvantage. So sleep is literally the pillar for setting up your entire day, not just in terms of training, but everything you do. So if you were to take anything from this video, bad sleep, do mind the writing, but bad sleep is going to equal bad workout. It's going to lower your strength, it's going to lower your energy, and your hunger is going to go through the roof. You're going to start binging, and if you're trying to lose weight, that's possibly the worst thing for you. But poor sleep, not only does it wreck your training, but it also affects your nutrition. Let me explain. Poor sleep will make you hungrier even if you ate enough. When you get poor sleep, your ghrelin goes up, which is basically when you get poor sleep, the hunger hormone called ghrelin goes up. That also means that your cravings go up, which means that if you're already a fat fuck, then you're probably going to go reach inside the cupboard for some sugar and get some more sugar. So you want to try and avoid that, especially if you're trying to lose weight. The other thing is leptin is going to go down, which is a hormone that regulates your long-term energy. So it means that your fullness is going to go down, which again is going to make you want to eat more, because it tricks your brain into thinking, oh, I'm not full yet, therefore I can eat more. But so what usually would make you full with a good night's sleep is not going to make you full anymore. With these things, your body is going to start chasing quick energy. So sugary drinks, sugary foods, high calorie carbs, and people think they lack discipline, but they're actually just sleep deprived most of the time, unless you're like me and you like to eat a lot of food, or unless there's a can of Pringles in the cupboard, and I know you're going to have those. So one thing you can learn is going to be bad sleep equals cravings. And the crazy part is you can fix this with a very simple pre-bed routine. And the crazy part is You can fix this with a very simple pre-bed routine. It doesn't have to be hard, you just have to stay focused and get it done. Your pre-bed routine actually matters more than your morning routine. Hear me out. You can't out morning routine a bad night routine. I know it's going to piss off some people because they have these hour-long morning routines that they think is going to do so much for them, but actually the night before is going to have more of an effect than you think. Your sleep quality, a lot of the time, is actually decided before you lie down. Because what you do before you lie down is going to lower your heart rate. And what I said before is lowering your heart rate is going to help your sleep. So if you calm your body before bed, then you're going to have a much deeper sleep. You're going to hit those deep sleep stages and you're going to be more primed to be able to recover for the next day. So moral here is do things before you go to bed that get you calm so that you can get into your deep sleep. So you're probably asking, what can I even do then? So here's the exact pre-bed routine that actually works. If you only change 3 things before you go to sleep, then do these. First one is going to be screens off 20 minutes before bed. Now, preferably an hour, and I know some of you are going to be less than 20 minutes on some days. If that's the case, either consider turning your phone or laptop onto night shift mode, or just copping a pair of blue light blocking glasses. Just as good there. But preferably, again, 20 minutes to even up to an hour before bed, shut off all your blue light screens completely. Think about going and reading a book, or maybe you talk to family, and that's not watching a show, or maybe you play an instrument, something that's going to calm you down. The next one is going to be 30 to 60 seconds slow breathing. So one that I like to do is going to be in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, and then hold with no air for 4 seconds. Do this 4 times and you'll feel so much more calm before you go to sleep, I guarantee it. The last thing is going to be a cool, dark room. Now, if you're in a hot climate, you want to set your aircon to about 17 to 19 degrees as a sweet spot. This is compared to most aircons, which are set at 23, 24 degrees. Too hot, wind that aircon temperature down. It'll save your sleep. So the 3 things you want to do before you go to bed is going to be 20 minutes no screens before bed, some breathing before bed, and a cool, dark room. So if you want to level it up a little bit more, here's what you want to do next. Here are the upgrades for elite level sleep. You're going to sleep like an absolute weapon. First one is going to be limit caffeine after 2 p.m. Preferably 12 p.m. because you want to allow up to 8 to 10 hours before you go to bed before drinking caffeine. So if you're going to bed at 10 p.m., 2 p.m. is 8 hours, 12 p.m. is 10 hours. That's even better. Sometimes even more, but let's just say 12 to 2 p.m. for now. The next one is going to be avoid heavy meals 1 to 2 hours before bed. Third is going to be light stretching or a hot shower to relax. Obviously, you don't want to increase your core temperature too much because that is just going to ruin your deep sleep, and it's going to be harder and longer for you to get down to those core temperatures, which are 1 degree lower than usual. The next thing could be journaling, or a substitute is reading, something that just lowers anxiety and in turn will lower your heart rate. And lastly, keep your lights dim an hour before bed. So if you have some adjustable lights, turn them down to the lowest setting. Maybe you might turn off all your lights and just use a candle or something like that. Something that's going to signal to your body that it's slowly getting darker and that it's time to go to sleep. And if you're going to remember anything, it's going to be that sleep sets up everything else in your life. Good sleep means your workouts are going to be better. You're going to have better nutrition because you're not going to crave the bad foods. You're going to feel better at work. Your memory is going to improve. Just absolutely everything improves. You need sleep. You need to optimize it first before you consider going on to other parts of your life. So if you want better training, better nutrition, better recovery, fix your sleep. Sleep is the foundation of fitness. Your hunger, energy, motivation, strength, they all come from your sleep quality. And it's all determined by what you do the night before to get you into the deep sleep stages and to get you into the REM sleep stages so that you have good quality sleep and you're not just fixated on a certain number of hours. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll try to answer them in another video. But other than that, when you go to sleep tonight, make sure you do a couple of these things. You know you're probably not, but at least try. At least try to make it seem like you will.